Number 10 on our list is the election of our current president, Barack Obama. Our most undervalued and underappreciated civil rights advancement would definitely have to be the election and inauguration of our current president, Barack Obama. It's not the biggest advancement because many laws and events had to happen for Obama to become president. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments had to be passed, otherwise no African American would have ever been able to be free, vote, and/or own property. It was a long time before anyone significant in American politics was black. Thurgood Marshall was the first black Supreme Court justice in 1967, and Condoleezza Rice followed him and was the first African American Secretary of State in 2005. Both of these small advancements led to January 20th, 2009, when Barack Obama became the first black president in the history of the United States. His election as President of the United States was the peak that all other civil rights advancements led to, as he was the first African American president to lead our nation. For this reason, we thought it was crucial to make sure he was in our top 10 list of advancements. Number 9 on our list of advancements is when Jackie Robinson became the first African American in Major League Baseball. During the 1940s, America's primary baseball league was the MLB. However, they had many other leagues. These leagues were segregated, as was everything else at the time. White ball players enjoyed many luxuries that black players in the Negro leagues did not have. This included proper gear and umpires, a large, enthusiastic audience, and a healthy payday. Blacks felt that they deserved equality and the chance to play in baseball's most popular league. Jack Roosevelt Robinson would be the man to pave the way for all other African American ball players. Robinson began playing in Negro leagues after his discharge from the Army in 1944. However, Jackie's skills were far better than any of his teammates or opponents, and president of the Brooklyn Dodgers, Branch Rickey, took notice. Rickey signed him in 1946, and he played with the Montreal Royals, a farm team to the Dodgers. Finally, on April 15, 1947, Jackie Robinson made history as the first African American to play in the MLB, as he started at first base against the Boston Braves. Robinson fought through racist comments and views from fans, opponents, and even teammates, but he ignored it all and changed not only baseball but sports forever. After Robinson joined the majors, dozens of players began to enter the big leagues. Decades later, football and basketball would become major sports in the U.S., and African Americans had little trouble participating in these. And now, almost 75 years later, there are no sport leagues or teams that are segregated thanks to Mr. Robinson. Robinson was such a significant figure that what he accomplished should most certainly be in the top 10 civil rights advancements. However, he did not have as much of an impact on civil rights as Martin Luther King or Abraham Lincoln. This is why we put him at number 9 on our list. Number 8 on our list are the Freedom Riders. In the 1950s and 1960s, segregation was very apparent in the United States. Everything from bubblers to restaurants to bus terminals were labeled whites only or blacks only. Many organizations during that time fought to end segregation, including the NAACP and CORE. One of CORE's attempts to end segregation occurred when they recruited 13 black and white civil rights activists to travel through the South to protest segregation in interstate bus terminals. The Freedom Riders would depart from Washington, D.C. on May 4, 1961, and would attempt to integrate facilities at bus terminals as they traveled through the American South. Their main attempts to stop this segregation would be to use the whites-only restrooms and lunch counters. This group did experience lots of violence from the white protesters, including beatings and attacks. Nevertheless, the Freedom Riders drew national attention and inspired hundreds of more activists to go to bus terminals and ignore the segregation. Due to these efforts by the Freedom Riders, in September of 1961, the Interstate Commerce Commission issued regulations that would prohibit segregation in bus and train stations nationwide. These Freedom Riders didn't only affect segregation in bus terminals, as they were a significant piece in pushing America towards a completely unsegregated society. For this reason, we insisted that what these riders did should be included in our list of advancements. Number 7 on our list is Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott. For years prior to this event, African Americans were required to sit in the back of public buses, and if all seats were filled and a white person boarded, they would have to give their seat up. On December 1, 1955, an African American woman named Rosa Parks was asked to give up her seat to a white man. She famously refused to do so in an effort to stand up for herself and her race, and when police were called onto the scene, she was arrested. With Rosa's act of defiance, she proved that one did have the ability to go up against an unjust law and be able to have a positive impact. Her act of courage inspired thousands of people in the United States to take action against what they believed was wrong. One famous result of this was the Montgomery bus boycott. Seeing as how Rosa was treated that day on the bus, many African Americans began to come together as one united group, and their first step was to completely boycott all city buses. This boycott lasted 381 days. Although this didn't seem like much in the beginning, over time it really started to have a significant impact on the city. Considering that transportation brought in a large amount of money for them, and with the fact that blacks were no longer riding the bus and therefore not paying, this took a sizable toll on many cities in terms of finances. Eventually, in 1956, with a Supreme Court decision, segregation on Montgomery buses was declared unconstitutional. So why is this only number 7 on our list? Well, while this was an extremely significant event due to the fact that it ultimately resulted in the desegregation of public busing, along with the fact it showed how much power one group of people can have when they come together as a united front, but it cannot be placed any higher on our list simply because the long-term impact that it has had on our nation is not as everlasting nor is it as impactful as other events, such as the Voting Rights Act, the end of the Atlantic slave trade, or the Civil Rights Amendments. Nevertheless, both Rosa and the bus boycott did play a major role in helping to bring America towards a much more modern-day form. Number 6 on our list is Martin Luther King Jr. and his I Have a Dream speech. The I Have a Dream speech delivered on August 28, 1963, is one of the most important civil rights advancements in the United States history, not only because of the impact it had on the people directly after it was delivered, but the effects it has had on today's society. At that time, African Americans were fighting for their equality. Martin Luther King delivered his speech in Washington, D.C. in front of thousands of Americans, both black and white. His speech called for the better treatment of his countrymen, but what many people don't know is that it also created a spark in radical emancipationists in other countries as well. European countries like Great Britain and France also were affected by King's speech. King exposed the struggles of the life of an African American for the whole world to see. This caused many politicians and white people to view them in a new light. King also exposed how they contribute so much to society, but yet are treated so poorly. He stressed his dreams for equality and for all people to be treated the same. Martin Luther King's views gave African Americans hope and motivation to create change, in the hopes of one day being considered equal. He was the face of anti-discrimination and a symbol for equality 50 years ago, and his views have had a massive effect on how we live our lives today.